that day as if it were yesterday, even though 10 years have passed. I was 18, just graduated from high school in Bahia Azul, that coastal town that looks like something out of an old postcard, with houses painted in faded colors from the salt air, and an ancient lighthouse at the edge of the bay that no longer shines. The lighthouse, with its rusted tower and broken windows, had always seemed like a symbol of my own life. Something that once glowed brightly but was now forgotten, waiting for a miracle that never came. My name is Lucía. I was a reserved girl, insecure to the point where I struggled to look people in the eye. I lived with my mother in a small, damp apartment near the harbor. She worked endless shifts at a seafood restaurant, and when she came home, the air filled with heavy silences. My father had moved to the capital years ago, promising visits that never happened. I felt trapped, as if the world had left me behind. What was I going to do with my life? I had no idea. I didn't want to study something that didn't ignite my passion, nor did I want to stay stuck serving coffees. So, I escaped to the beach every sunset, where the roar of the waves drowned out my thoughts. That day, the sun was setting in a burst of oranges and pinks, tinting the sea with fire. I walked barefoot on the cold sand, feeling the salty breeze that chilled my skin and the penetrating scent of the ocean, mixed with seaweed and freedom. I reached the rocks near the lighthouse, where the waves crashed forcefully, splashing foam. And there, huddled between two large stones, I saw him. A mixed-breed puppy, malnourished and shivering. His golden fur was disheveled, covered in sand and mud, and his floppy ears gave him an air of vulnerability that squeezed my heart. He looked at me with big eyes, golden like the sun reflecting in them. And instead of running away, he weakly wagged his tail. I hesitated. I'd never cared for an animal before. What did I know about dogs? What if I couldn't feed him? What if my mother got angry? But those eyes, they seemed to say, "Trust me, I trust you." I picked him up carefully, feeling his lightweight, fragile body against my chest. He trembled, but he didn't resist. I wrapped him in my jacket and walked back home, my heart pounding. "You'll be called Sol," I whispered, because his fur shone like the rays of the setting sun. That first night, I improvised a bed with an old blanket on the floor of my room. Sol curled up right away, exhausted, but before sleeping, he licked my hand with a rough, warm tongue. I sat beside him, watching him breathe. Fear, yes, a lot of fear about the responsibility I'd just taken on, but also a spark of hope, something I hadn't felt in months. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel completely alone. The distant sound of the waves lulled me, and I slept with a strange peace, knowing that the next day, someone would need me. The first years with Sol were a whirlwind of learning and discoveries. I worked part-time at a cafe in the center, serving espressos and pastries to distracted tourists, and every penny I earned went to him. Food, a collar, toys. I learned to care for him the hard way. I remember the first time I took him to the vet. He was nervous, barking softly while they examined him. "He's a strong mixed breed," the doctor said, "but he needs vaccines and good nutrition." I struggled to pay for them, skipping my own meals to prioritize him. Once, Sol had an infection in his paw that required minor surgery. I spent sleepless nights saving every cent, working extra hours until my feet ached. But seeing him recover, jumping again, made it all worth it. Socially, it wasn't easy. Some neighbors gave me sideways glances. "You're too young for that, Lucía," Rosa would say from her balcony. "A dog is a responsibility, not a toy." Her words hurt my already fragile self-esteem. They made me question if I was doing the right thing, and my anxiety about the future grew. Study? Move? Stay in Bahia Azul forever? Sol became my emotional anchor, the one keeping me afloat. Our morning walks on the beach became a sacred ritual. We'd go out at dawn, when the sun painted the horizon in soft golds. I'd run with him as he chased seagulls, his paws leaving prints in the wet sand. Once, he stole one of my shoes and buried it in the sand, wagging his tail as if it were the most fun game in the world. "Sol, you rascal," I'd shout between laughs, digging to retrieve it. Those moments of light humor pulled me out of my worries. I'd tell him everything. My fears of failing, my vague dreams of doing something creative. He'd listen with his head tilted, his golden eyes fixed on me, as if he understood every word. On one of those walks, in the park near the beach, I met Clara. She was a retired veterinarian, walking her own dog, an old Labrador named Max. We crossed paths several times until one day she approached. "Your dog is beautiful," she said with a warm smile. "You can tell you love him a lot." Talking to her was like finding an adoptive mother. She taught me tricks for caring for Sol, how to brush him, what foods to avoid. "Animals teach us more than we imagine," she told me. She encouraged me to explore my passion for them, suggesting online courses on animal care. Clara became my mentor, someone I could talk to without judgment. But the moment I remember most is that night, at the end of the first year. I'd argued with my mother. She wanted me to find a real job, and I felt trapped. I cried alone in my room, the world weighing on me. Sol slipped in quietly, jumped on the bed, and curled up against me, resting his head on my lap. His warm fur, his rhythmic breathing. It was as if he were saying, "I'm here." I stroked his floppy ears, and the tears dried up. That night, Sol comforted me without words, and I knew our bond was real, unbreakable. In those years, I discovered my talent for drawing. I started with simple sketches of Sol in an old notebook, his expressive eyes in pencil, his fur in warm colors like yellows and ochres, strokes that captured his bouncy joy. Caring for him taught me to structure my life. Schedules for meals, walks, playtime. I faced my insecurities little by little. My relationship with my mother evolved. Seeing how I cared for Sol, she began to respect me more. "Maybe you're right, daughter," she said one day, helping me buy food for him. Sol didn't just give me purpose. He taught me to love myself. At 22, inspired by Sol and my talks with Clara, I decided to study illustration at a local institute. My drawings of animals came to life. Dogs running on imaginary beaches, cats with mysterious eyes. Sol was my main muse, his playful and protective personality captured in every stroke. I started volunteering at the Petita Stilfaro shelter, a humble place on the edge of town where they rescued abandoned animals. I'd bring Sol to socialize. He'd become the center of attention, running between cages with boundless energy, licking volunteers' hands. Then came the conflict. The shelter was about to close due to lack of funds. The owner, an older man, told us, "There's no money for rent." I refused to accept it. That place had saved so many like Sol. I couldn't let it go. I decided to lead a campaign to save it. I used my illustrations. I designed posters with smiling dogs, t-shirts with the shelter's logo, and planned a charitable art exhibition. Sol was key. He became the shelter's ambassador, winning everyone's affection with his playful energy. I'd include him in my drawings, Sol playing with puppies, Sol gazing at the lighthouse with dreamy eyes. Those strokes, with vibrant colors like sea blues and sun golds, inspired people to adopt. "Your dog is magical," visitors would tell me. The culminating moment was the exhibition at the abandoned lighthouse. We transformed it, cleaned the dust, hung string lights, and my illustrations adorned the curved walls. The lighthouse, a symbol of rebirth, came alive again. On the event night, the sea breeze entered through the broken windows, mixed with the smell of fresh paint and coffee. The community came in droves: neighbors, tourists, even my mother, who smiled proudly. Sol ran among the attendees, wagging his tail, stealing the show. He jumped to lick faces, making everyone laugh. "Huh, look at that rascal," someone exclaimed when Sol tried to steal a brush from my table. A local photographer, Miguel, approached. "This story is inspiring," he said. He photographed Sol posing with my drawings and shared everything on social media. Support came from outside Bahia Azul: donations, new volunteers. But the moment that broke me was when a little girl with braids and big eyes approached. "I adopted my puppy because of Sol," she told me, hugging a rescued pup. "I saw him in your drawings and wanted one just like him." I cried right there, hugging her. I realized the impact of our bond. Sol hadn't just changed me. He inspired others to love and care. I found my voice as a leader and artist. I learned to trust myself, to speak in public without stuttering. The community united because of Sol, that playful dog who connected hearts. The lighthouse, once forgotten, now shown metaphorically, guiding us all. The campaign saved the shelter, and with the momentum, I published my first illustrated book, The Lighthouse of Sol. It was our story, with detailed drawings of his adventures, promoting responsible adoption. "Dogs give us everything without asking for anything," I wrote in the dedication. The book sold well in local bookstores, and I became a known figure in Bahia Azul. The girl with the magical dog, they called me affectionately. But the internal conflict came. At 25, I received an offer from an art publishing house in the capital, a big and bustling city. It was my dream, illustrating professional books. But I feared for Sol. How would the move affect our routine? Would he miss the beach? And me? Was I ready for such a big change? I spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling while Sol slept at my feet. Reflected a lot. I observed Sol, his adaptability, how he got excited about new things. If he can, so can I thought. I accepted the offer and we moved. The first night in the city apartment, I was nervous. The noise of cars replaced the waves. The air smelled of asphalt instead of sea. But Sol explored every corner with enthusiasm, sniffing furniture, wagging his tail. He tried to steal a pillow and dragged it across the floor, making me laugh until tears came. "Sol, you're an urban thief now," I told him, hugging him. In the city, I started art workshops for children at a local library. I taught them to draw animals and talked about caring for them. A dog is a friend for life, but we must give them responsible love. Sol came with me, sitting patiently while the kids drew him. One day, a shy boy with downcast eyes, like I was at his age, didn't speak. Sol approached, rested his head on his knee. The boy smiled, started drawing. "Thanks to your dog, he opened up," the mother told me afterward. That moment reinforced everything. Sol was still my lighthouse, guiding me. My coworker, Alex, a friendly illustrator, supported me in adapting. "You have talent, Lucía," he'd say while reviewing drawings. The book was successful, and I donated the profits to the shelter, securing its future. Sol adapted wonderfully. He discovered urban parks, made doggy friends. His resilience inspired me to grow, to expand my horizons without fear. At 28, my life is a tapestry of colors I never imagined. I lead workshops in several cities, sharing my art and my message. I founded Petitas del Faro, an organization that promotes adoption and responsible pet care. I'm working on a second book, compiling stories of adopted dogs inspired by Sol. I returned to Bahia Azul for an event at the Lighthouse, now restored as a community center thanks to my work and the donations. I walked with Sol along the beach where we met. He, with some gray in his muzzle but full of life, ran after the waves, barking joyfully. The scent of the sea enveloped me, the sound of the waves an echo of our beginning. I stroked his warm fur, feeling his heart beat strong. "Thank you, Sol," I whispered. He looked at me with those golden eyes, as always understanding. At the event, I spoke before the audience. Clara, my mother, our relationship now warm, full of hugs. Miguel, the photographer. The girl, now a teenager with her dog. And children with adopted pets. I told our story. How an abandoned puppy gave me purpose, community, love. Dogs teach us to love unconditionally, to find light in the darkness. Let's care for them responsibly, because they give us everything. Sol barked at my side, as if approving. The audience applauded. I reflect now. Sol transformed my life and many others. His unconditional love made me a better human, inspired me to change the world, one drawing at a time. If you adopt a dog, care for them with your heart. They will give you an eternal legacy of love. In the quiet moments of life, when the world feels heavy and uncertain, there's a gentle truth we often overlook. Our dogs are more than companions. They are living lessons in boundless love. Whether they come into our lives through the doors of a shelter, where they've waited with hopeful eyes for a second chance, or from a place where fate might have left them without a home, the essence remains the same. Every dog deserves a family that sees beyond beginnings, cherishing them not as possessions, but as souls who give everything without asking for a single thing in return. Imagine the wag of a tail that greets you after the longest day, the soft nudge of a nose that says, "I'm here," when tears fall unseen. Dogs love us unconditionally, fiercely, with a loyalty that would lay down their very lives to protect ours. They teach us to forgive quickly, to play without apology, and to find joy in the simplest things. A walk in the rain, a shared sunset. In return, we owe them our deepest respect, nourishing their bodies with care, honoring their spirits with patience, and creating a world where no pup is left behind, forgotten in the shadows. Let us choose paths that amplify this love, seeking out those who need us most, building bonds that heal both hearts. For in loving a dog, we discover the purest form of humanity, selfless, enduring, and eternally grateful. They don't just share our homes, they illuminate our lives, reminding us that true family is forged in the heart, not in transactions. Cherish them, for they are the guardians of our souls. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I'd love to read your thoughts. You've been listening to Lilith Sanctum. Until next time.